all right, well, that's irritating. I recorded like half of this reaction, and then I realized I wasn't recording at all, so now I gotta start over, and I'm like all boiling now because I was halfway through it and I was getting all the way mad. So now I need to start over and redo all of my thinking, and this is very annoying. But, you know, what we don't do for my audience who doesn't exist, or rather, what am I doing to leave some documentation of who their father was to my children in the future? That's why I'm doing this. So let's see. Let's listen to this lady. All right, I need to put an intro down. Right, so they're talking about marriage is declining down there. This, I think, is Williamson's podcast. I don't know if Williamson has any children. I suspect he doesn't. So that's funny in that way, because all of the bloody experts that talk about this stuff have none. I've got 5, okay, which isn't a whole lot, but it is certainly more than the vast majority of anybody average, right? And this lady over here, I also don't know who she is and what she does. It doesn't so much matter, because when she's going to open her mouth, she's going to irritate me a fair bit. So it's useful to do a decent reaction. So they're going to be talking about why people don't get married, and effectively, as a corollary, why nobody has any kids, sort of thing, right? Obviously, when I say why, I don't mean why, because all modern experts start from data, which is stupid, because you're served much better by utilizing your logic and working from principle. You will find out a lot of intelligent potential routes. The data can only inform you as to the fact that something is happening. It's always in the past. It's looking backwards, right? But I need to look forwards. Everybody needs to look forwards. That's where you form theories using logic, deduction. Deduction is a branch of logic, but whatever. Anyway, let's listen to these people.
Talk to me about the declining rates for marriage, because this is a trend that's been going on for a while. I think we've got whatever it is, 38% of Gen Z saying that they're not having sex. We've got sex recession and all the rest of it. But
8% are not having sex. So cool. That's interesting. Let's be, abstinent. That's good. All of the religious people will be happy.
I do get the sense that more worrying than that is like casual sex coming and going, unless it, I don't know, precedes more meaningful relationships happening. I don't know what the sort of heritage is there. But the marriage thing, I think, seems to be a little bit more concerning. So have you had a look at this? Have you thought about what's going on here, modern marriage trends?
Can I just repeat the take of a different Modern Wisdom guest, which is Lyman Stone, because I interviewed him the other day. And he had a view on this, which I found so interesting and actually really pull together a lot of the things I've been confused about when looking at marriage rates and fertility and all this stuff that I'm writing about.
Still confused.
He doesn't think that actually, he basically thinks the only thing that is wrong with fertility rates in the West is, I mean, he's looking at America, but this applies to Britain as well, is people getting married late.
Okay, so I've already said this before, I'm going to say it again. So yes, I think this is an intelligent and astute observation, because it's not the observation that gets made very frequently. With that said, it's not the only. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely foolish. There's loads of reasons why people would not want to get married and would not want to have children. I'm sure we're going to cover them later on. But the whole age thing is absolutely important. Everybody gets married late if they get married at all. Now, let's set aside the fact that marriage is awful. Right? I mean, it's not awful as a thing. It's awful in the modern day because it isn't marriage. I'll talk about this later. But let's only focus on the fact of on how lives work for most kids. That includes my generation, the next generation, and the one following. All of this started with the 2 generations behind, meaning my grandparents. So my grandparents didn't go to school, etc., etc., etc. Then schools became a cultural standard. My parents were in school all their lives. Then I was in school all my life, and so are all of the next generation, and it's getting worse and worse. Because a child leaves home at around the age of 3 by now, I think, between preschools and that sort of awful stuff, right? Then they stay in school until about the age of 20-something. Now, that will depend on what faculty they frequent, will depend on what their goals are, but, at the very minimum, In loads of countries, by the way, it's illegal to exit the school system earlier than that. 18 would be the age. 18, 19, that sort of thing. If you're in Italy, it's 19. I don't care what the law says. That was the practical reality because I was there. Right? So, by the time you exit the school system, you are already an adult. But you have been an adult for a while. And that's where you need to start building to construct anything out of yourself, to then potentially attempt to create a larger project than yourself, which is a family. So this is an astute observation. I mean, I don't think she goes to any degree in depth as to why it happens. Maybe later she touches on it. Whatever. The point is, good observation. Well done. You get a couple of points.
He thinks that's the only problem. Because actually, once people are married, they tend to have kids. Like, you know, it's almost like you get married and you're like, well, what else are we going to do, right? He says that actually the number of people who are married and are deliberately not having children, like the dinks, they're quite culturally prominent, but they're actually rare. There aren't.
Are they? They're rare. Okay, now I'm fully aware that data is not the plural of anecdote. But I've had jobs, normal jobs, like many other people, in which I would be in offices, right? In particular, I'm what would you refer to as a white collar guy, right? So I was in jobs in cubicles, essentially, right? And I had colleagues. And in my last job, for example, in the cold land of Canada, right? I was surrounded by colleagues. And these colleagues were in large part married. Almost all of them. I mean, the younger ones, not so much, but the older ones, definitely. So my boss was married, my vice boss was married, the third boss that came in was also married. Then there were the lady that was dealing with not really HR, but organization, she was married. Another lady that did the same, she was married as well. And she had just had 2 children, twins. I remember that. And then there were myself and another colleague. Anyway, the point I'm making is that within the whole department, I had 3 children. My Mormon colleague had 3 children. And this other colleague that I mentioned had 2. That was the entire quantity of children. And everybody else was married. And in previous offices, this is repeated. There are loads of marriages out there without any child. I have no idea what the data says, and I couldn't care less because they are all over the place. I know them now. Okay? So what you're saying is categorically false. In fact, I think it's funny because you disprove it yourself sort of in a roundabout way later on when you talk about your own life.
Not very many people who do that. Most people get married, and if they can, they will have some children.
If they can. Interesting. I wonder what that means.
Right. But when people are getting married into, like, I think the average age of first marriage now is over 30, definitely. And
Jesus Christ. Over 30. I didn't know the number, but it doesn't matter. That's 10 years too late. It's a big deal. If you consider that you get married and then you have a child when you're, say, 32, 33, 35, or something like that, yeah, by the time you retire, your child is barely of age. Which means they need to start dealing with all of your failing body bits. Because you're an older person and everything breaks. And your child, all of a sudden, most likely the only child, because you won't be able to do 2 or 3, etc. It's quite fatiguing. The quantity of spontaneous abortions is very, very high as the age of the lady increases, etc., etc., etc. There's 100 reasons why you're most likely not going to have very many children if you start that late also. And your children are going to be miserable because they're going to have to deal with your sorry derriere as you age. Beautiful.
the average age of marriage in general is quite old because people get married multiple times account for disproportionate number of marriages. So
oh, lol. So the people who get married for multiple times count in the same stat? Genius. You guys may want to control for this because that's absolutely ridiculous.
drag it up. But, during the baby boom, the average age of first marriage was so young. It was like 22 or something.
And that's late, just so we're clear.
Really young. And even in the 80s, I got married when I was 25, which is basically a child bride in my peer group. In the 80s...
Why are you laughing? Chris is your name, I believe, yeah? Why are you laughing? Not bloody funny, is it? A, it's not funny. B, that was not a joke. The mere fact that you yourself are considering this, the lady that is, and using this terminology means that you yourself agree with the premise that this is abnormal. Getting married at 25. A 25 you're late on schedule, madam. This is normal. The fact that, I suppose actually I need to redefine the word normal here, because normal means it belongs to a norm. If the norm says, or it falls under the context of a norm, if the norm says everybody gets married at 30, then that's the norm, so that's normal. So pardon me, I'm wrong. But the point I'm making is if you just need to go back 2 generations. That's almost nothing historically, right? For it to be normal for people to actually construct a family well early compared to now. But it's not early at all. Like, women are fertile by the age of like 14. I don't know what percentage it's going to be, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. But a very, very large one. Am I saying that all women should become mothers at the age of 14? That's not what I said. And if that's what you heard, you need to get your brain checked. Right? But I also did not say that you need to collect your pension before you actually consider getting married. Right? Because that's the direction we're going. Like, according to Dante, for example, he used to say nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita, which means that's how the Inferno starts, right? He's basically arguing that 35 years old is halfway through life. So you wait for half of your life before you consider doing potentially the most important thing and most meaningful thing you could possibly consider ever doing. You might be playing the game wrong. It might be normal, but you're wrong.
80s, that was average, right? So people are basically just skipping the whole of their 20s during which they could have been having children because they're not actually coupling up until later, or they're not coupling up at all. So Lyman's take, and I think it's actually a really interesting one, people often say it's just to do with housing. It's just because housing is expensive, or it's just to do with the availability of contraception, or it's just to do with feminism telling women that, like, they're girl bosses and they don't need to have kids, whatever. He says, no, it's actually just a coordination problem. It's actually just that people are not getting married sufficiently early so that they then have their whole of their reproductive lives ahead of them and can have, 2.5 kids.
What a beautifully mentally challenged take. So it's not just this, it's not just this, it's not just this. You're right, madam. Everybody who says it's just this is a friggin' idiot. But then you follow this up, and I like it how you, by the way, give the responsibility for this statement to a different entity, a different person who isn't even here, so well done. Lovely. Very dishonorable. But anyway, it's just this other thing. It isn't. Also, this other thing is usually affected in a butterfly effect system, so to speak, by everything else. All of these parts that you have mentioned play a part in the failing, without question. Okay, and you haven't mentioned the slightly important bit, which is the cultural aspect, which I keep on banging on about, right? Meaning everybody goes to school forever for no damn reason. That, right? So, I mean, also you said the 80s, the generation. This is an old problem, man. Like, every expert that's now waking up and going like, oh man, we have a problem with the births. I mean, there was Mark Stein who wrote the book America Alone in 2005, detailing how the numbers are showing a decline in population all over the West, except for America and Canada, hence the title. That was 2005. That's 20 years ago. This problem is old. In fact, Stein is late on schedule. Right? Now, it's normal that you and me, because we are relatively young, would not understand this trend. But I already perceived the trend when I was 4 or 5 years old. You were seeing divorces all over the places, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and you were seeing lots of children, quote unquote, out of wedlock becoming normal. You were also seeing less and less children, with schools already starting to decline in number at the time. It didn't look obvious, and now it starts to look obvious. Hate to break it to you, but we're really late on schedule to figure this out. The point that I'm making here is, it's not just this, it's not just feminism, it's not just this, it's all of these things at the same time. It is refreshing to see that there's an additional perspective being brought forward. I mean, an additional perspective that anybody with eyes to see would have known without being an expert, that this individual you're mentioning brings up, which is the scheduling issue. Don't disagree. But it's not just. Definitely, that is ridiculous. The schedule is dependent on everything else. And vice versa.
But that is linked to the other stuff in the sense that he thinks, and I think this is really persuasive, that the reason people aren't getting married younger is because men in their 20s are not able to, for various reasons, signal their suitability as
Okay. So, as per usual, it's men's fault, is it not? Now, shall we talk a little bit about the female suitability? Because I'm willing to put money down that you don't know how to make a meal. That's obviously a risky bet. She might do. But it's a gigantic chunk of the female population right now that I see going to stores, normal places, okay? In a country where I live, which in my opinion is the second world, it's not even the first world at the moment. I'm sure that the people here will find it very offensive, but I don't care. I've lived in the first world, okay? So I go around and I see the women all just like you with a fake face that isn't theirs, just like you with some hole on their chest that for some reason is supposed to display part of their secondary genitalia, and so on and so forth, of a lipstick and eyeliner and mascara and probably tinted eyebrows, because we need that for some reason. You're the only species that shaves and then paints. Well done. That's suitable, is it? Because that to me is suitable to go to the red light district. That's not suitable to be a mother. Do you know what's suitable to be a mother? I'll tell you what it's suitable to be a mother. Being generally kind, being generally supportive, being very competent in the home. So I'm expecting highly advanced knowledge of cooking, loads of recipes, ways of dealing with ingredients even when they are suboptimal, and so on and so forth. Right? Then I'm also expecting a motherly nature toward irritating tasks like cleaning and that sort of thing. That makes a woman suitable. Now, would you like to find me one? Go on, whoever's in the audience. Go on, think. Find me one. You can include your mother in the test, because I bet you she fails. Find me one. Find me one suitable female to be a matron. Best of luck, right? Now, the fellas are apparently unsuitable. You need to go back one generation, for Pete's sakes. You do not need any more than that. One generation, you go back one generation alone, just one, and you ask yourself, what did my father need to do to be suitable to be a father? To be marriage material. And you know what he needed to do? Be generally kind and generally work. Have a stable work ethic, which didn't even mean income, eventually would become income. If people married earlier, what do you think? They were already billionaires. Actually, I'm kind of anticipating this because you're going to say this and it's going to make me furious later. But, you know, when my recording failed, that's when I was furious. So, I'm still in that frame of mind. Furious may be a bit strong, but whatever. The point is, madam, there's a very good reason why all of the fellas are turning into MGTOWs and all of this sort of concept. They are leaving because you women are awful. On average. Okay? And nobody wants to get married to you. And there's lots of other reasons as well, but this is a big one. It's so much so that I believe the manosphere refers to the entity that I've just described, the matron, as a unicorn. And they use it as a derogatory term to make fun of simps who say, like I do right now, that I have one. Because I do. Now, I don't care who disagrees with me. I've been married with her for 20 years and we have 5 children, and so far as I can tell, nothing's going to change. I mean, my mother, sweet lapses. Oof, a deep old much. My wife, pardon. Well, I call her mommy all the time because that's what my children do, so I think I'm excused. Anyway, my wife doesn't even know what money looks like. It's my job to take care of that. Right? Her job is to make sure to nurture the family. The family needs to grow. and needs to grow happy, and needs to grow strong. She is the backbone of everything we've done together. That's a proper find. And you know the funny thing? She has a degree and I don't. And she has never used it once. Just came to my mind that. But anyway, very offensive, madam, what you're saying. In a completely flippant way, which is beautiful, because women can just say stupid stuff all day long and nobody ever comes back at them. Because they don't have a dad. You all need a dad. I have elected myself for this very minute to be your dad right now and tell you that what you're saying is so stupid it's breathtaking. You may want to turn yourself into a great prospect before you expect it from a man. Also because a great prospect for a man, 1 generation ago, this is 20 years, not even. Like, how do you not have a memory? But it's not even a memory, for Pete's sakes. Look at your own dad. Now, maybe your dad is some kind of mega millionaire, hooray, good for you. Mine isn't. My father was an employee all his life, and my father-in-law was an employee all his life. Perfectly suitable fathers, arguably. Anyway, at the time, their women had decided that they were. And both me and my wife, by pure luck, are children of a marriage that remained intact, despite the fact that we are only children, which is awful, but different discussion. Okay? So, what you said just now is that meme. It's the most stupid, idiotic thing anybody has ever said, and everybody in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points.
Husbands in a way they used to. Because what women are looking for when they're looking for...
What do you mean, Chris? It's your job to tell her what you on about, madam. I mean, look at Chris. He's a great guy, right? He's got everything. He's muscles and stuff, and he's really, he's well accomplished. I mean, I'm reacting to this. I'm going to make 1 view. He's making 3 trillion or whatever the number is, right? Right? Great prospect. Yeah, well, maybe he's married. Maybe he isn't. I do not know. But does he have children? I'm putting money on the fact that he doesn't. I should stop putting money on things because it's money that belongs to my kids. But this is all metaphorical. Point is, I'm betting that, at least from probability, doesn't matter how successful you are, doesn't matter whether you're married or not, none of this produces any children, you're talking rubbish, you're out of your mind.
Or a husband is someone who they know is going to be reliable during moments of difficulty when they have children. Because when you're pregnant and when you're nursing and you've got young children, you simultaneously need more resources and also have less ability to get those resources for yourself. So you're...
Literally, nobody falls in love the way you've just described. Thomas Sowell once said, I think in a quote, I don't want to misquote him, but I'm ad-libbing here, so it's going to happen. We are now in an era in which we have no problem in publicly talking about sex, but we don't seem to be able to be talking about love. I think that's a very, very poignant quote right now. So, the love arc in a couple works as follows. 2 individuals meet and they are attracted to one another for whatever reason. And I mean whatever reason. It's very difficult to know what attracts somebody to somebody else. Usually for men, we approximate it to good looks, but that's not true. You need good looks and you need a nice personality. That is special. It's just that a 10 out of 10 looks plus a 10 out of 10 personality just doesn't work. All of the 10 out of 10 women are completely insane usually for obvious reasons, which we won't go into right now. But anyway, looks for a man, the standard calculation is she must be not vomit-inducingly ugly, and she must not smell, and she must be generally kind. That's it. That's how difficult it is. For the women, a bit different. They've got about a list 20 miles long of completely irrelevant stuff, like he needs to be 6'8", whatever a foot is, right? That sort of stuff. You can't apparently get married unless you're Nikola Jokic, right? So, and you must be a billionaire and this and that the other, and you must, be protective and strong and caring, but present, but also absent because you need to work and blah blah blah. You need to run your business. Insanity. This is crazy. 1 generation back, you needed to be a guy. So anyway, but the man and the woman attract each other somehow. They get together and they form a couple. That couple is boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. It lasts for a certain amount of time and in a status of what do you call it? The butterflies of infatuation. There we go. You're infatuated for a bit with one another. Then that fades over time, and then you start figuring out how to form a larger system, a larger plan, a larger project together. That's how that works. Okay? And that's what marriage looks like. So, that's how people get together. It's got nothing to do with predefining pickets, right? I can only get with this guy if he's got 6 figures and this and that and the other. Women do that, and they're totally wrong. This is not how anything works. This is not how anything should work. You should get together with somebody because you like them as a person for all of the various aspects that define their person. In fact, just 1 or 2 generations ago, people used to get together and then get married prior to having jobs, prior to having security, guaranteed prior to having security. Still happens in highly religious places. So no, totally wrong. Everything you're saying is false. Everything you're saying is used by women to pretend they're looking to marry, and all they're looking to do is to hook up, which is the malady of the modern era, which is what Williamson had said right at the beginning of the video. It's not a malady of the modern era. It's a malady that certainly fights against the idea of creating a more long-lasting relationship.
You're in a real pickle. And like the person or people who can provide that for you, like you need them, you need someone, and the obvious person is the father of your children, and that's...
I mean, did you hear yourself? She has just said that in order for you to marry somebody, you need to marry the father of your children. That's not how anything works, madam. You become a father of the children after. I mean, this is so ridiculous what you just said that I'm actually doubting myself whether I heard her right. I'm thinking perhaps I misinterpreted what she said, or I'm over-focusing on semantics or something. I'm not sure. But what she said, the way I understood it, is that women triage the men in order to figure out who the ideal marriage material is, and the ideal marriage material is the father of their children. That's what I heard, right? I might be wrong. But yes, I have no idea what you just said. But you aren't born the father of your children, or of any children for that matter, as a man. You become one. And you develop together as a couple. That's how it works. She's wearing a ring, so presumably she knows this. I don't know.
That's what monogamous marriage is, basically, like legally obliging men to step up during those moments.
That is ridiculous. Oh, God. I don't even believe in him, and I still mention him. Why? So, what you're saying, because unfortunately women don't understand English, right? Or any language for that matter. Sorry, that was a generalization. No, whatever. Pass me it. I don't care. Right? So she just said, she doesn't know that she said it, but that's what she said. And she's going to call me a narcissist for interpreting it this way, but I don't care. Right? She just said that I stayed with my wife when she had our first, second, third, fourth, fifth child. Okay? Just because I'm legally obligated. Remember what I said? Nice stop frame, by the way. Anyway, no, I stayed with my woman because I gave my word that I would do so. And my word is very important. You can shove your law straight where the sun don't shine. Nobody gets married and stays together with somebody because of legal premises. If this is what happens, then all marriages will fail, which is exactly why they do. It's the laws that destroy marriage. Here's how marriage works. I'll explain it to you so you can understand. Pardon. Big asterisk. Here's how marriage ought to work before stupid people stole the word. Like many other words. Okay? Marriage is a contract for life with no escape. Okay? Once you sign your marriage contract, you, the man, and you, the woman, get together to form a new entity. This entity is the family, let's call it. The marriage is the name of the entity. Okay? That entity is indestructible. You can't separate these people. Everything is shared. All wealth, all assets, all all good times, bad times, anything in between, is shared. 100%. Okay? And there is no exit for any reason. That's what marriage is. What you perceive as marriage is essentially a glorified boyfriend-girlfriend situation. What do they call them? I think situationships or something. I know that's like lower level than boyfriend-girlfriend. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is, you, madam, think of marriage as a legal thing. No, we don't need law. We need honor. If I shake my hand with someone on something, whatever it is, that thing happens. And if it doesn't happen, which may occur, I get run over by a bus, right? There's got to be a very damn good justification for it. And by damn good, I don't mean I changed my mind. Irreconcilable differences. I also don't mean I'm a bit unhappy. Or I'm a lot unhappy. Or I'm mistreated. None of these are reasons to break a bond. This, madam, is one of the fundamental reasons why everything is collapsing. It's one of the reasons why when you go and sign a contract for your electricity bill or whatever, you receive 57 pages in A5 font that tell you that, by the way, they're not responsible for anything, they can increase the prices, etc., etc. Do you agree to these conditions? Yes or yes? That's a modern contract. That's marriage. By the way, this is exactly why all of the men are going to refuse to do it. I mean, except the idiots, right? But the intelligent people are going to walk away from marriage. You've taken marriage, you've destroyed its meaning. Keep riding that. Keep doing it. Congratulations. Well done for being an active member in the genocide effort. Legal. I stayed with my wife because of legal reasons. It's so spectacularly offensive. Yeah, that's what men need. We need a legal bond, because otherwise we're all deadbeat. We all leave. Did you know that? Yeah, we all do. Yeah. There was totally a law on marriage when my grandfather impregnated my grandmother by accident. Then my mother was born out of that accident, and the church, God, whatever you want, their own personal sense of responsibility got them to get married, even though I don't think either of the two entities, and they had to learn to live together, and I don't think they were ever happy. And nobody cared. And there was a way better machinery than what's going on now. Because it was based on honor. And now it's based on, I don't know, some lawyer. And everything is destroyed.
And so women are looking for a man who will do that, and who is capable of providing those resources in that difficult moment. And they look for signals in men that they're up to that, and wealth is one of them. But there are other ways of showing it as well, like going to an elite university.
Oh gosh, you do not understand language. Going to an elite university costs double the money than going to a normal university, which means you have wealth again. Or if you're American, you have debt. What an attractive prospect. How far in the hole are you before life starts? Oh, you're my king. That's how it works. Everything you say is false. How do you live? Like, all of these women need a father.
That's pretty good. Or running your own business, or military service. That's an interesting example.
Down to about 3%, I think, compared with 50% in the 1940s. Yeah.
That I asked Lyman this, and he was like, yeah, he thought it was true. Is it possible that part of the reason there was a post-war baby boom, particularly in America, is because so many men had military service?
There is no way you're arguing this with seriousness. This has to be satire. Help! Okay. Now, I've lived through one as a little child, war, myself, where I was in Yugoslavia, right? Your lovely... I don't know what... She sounds Britishish, so I don't think it's that, but... so neither of these two people... Whatever. When Clinton had decided he had to help, because that's what Americans do, get in the way of everything. So my father was called to war at the time, right? And what happens during war is that all of the men are over there chucking spears at one another. Or intercepting messages like my dad was doing, I think. I don't actually know what he did because he never told me, right? And he can't now, he's got dementia, which is lovely. So during war, everything is torn asunder. Everything is stripped apart. People can't be together. Everything is destroyed. War doesn't benefit anyone in any scenario. Ever. Okay? After a war, particularly a long one and a very bloody one, like you're referring to, World War II, because you said in the 40s they were 50%. You know, they're bloody forced into it, weren't they? Anyway, after a war, there is rebuilding. And with rebuilding comes a cultural momentum of reconstruction. I've literally just repeated myself. I'm sorry. But anyway, the point is, during the war, there's lots of destruction. And after the war, there's lots of building and optimism and future looking. It's got nothing to do with whether you were in the military or not. It's got everything to do with the fact that you're not out there killing one another. Like, I am assuming that right now in the Ukraine, having lots of children, not exactly popular. Later, there will be a rebuild of some sort when the war ends. It's got nothing to do with the military involvement. This is ridiculous. This is insanity. What you're saying is mental. You are mental. There is no way anybody can argue this. It is coincidental, for sure, that somebody who has military training happens to have children. Yeah, they didn't have Netflix. That's way more probable. They didn't have video games. That makes it way more probable for them to engage in unprotected sexual activity, madam, and try to actually build families because they had some honor, etc. This is crazy. You're crazy. Everything you're saying is crazy. This is false. It's got nothing to do with anything, the fact that you have a military background. There's people with military background right now that I'm sure have no kids. So that makes no sense. These are the experts, man. I mean, goodness help us.
And had this opportunity to demonstrate their suitability as fathers and husbands.
See how reliable I am. I just went to war. I can raise your child.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it is harder now for young men.
So if you were an Ustasha and you went to war, and at least according to what the propaganda on my side used to say, you were raping and pillaging everything you saw, you're reliable and lovely, were you? I mean, both of you, what are you saying? Like, what is the quantity of empty air in that brain, in that cranium of yours? This is crazy. There is no way these people are serious. This has to be satire. Or they simply have no idea what they're talking about, and it's the best example of Dunning-Kruger ever seen. And just so we're clear, neither do I. I've never participated in a war as an adult, so I have no clue. I just was there as a child, and I saw, and I lived in a cellar for a bit with only my mother because my father was far away, and nobody had any idea if he would come back alive. Which he eventually did, because he worked in espionage, I believe. But I'm reliable because of... So, excuse me, then what is PTSD? Then why are all veterans, they need like a special Medicare just for the veterans, and they need like food stamps just for the veterans? Why is there such prominent depression among the veterans? What are you saying? Oh, goodness gracious. I think these people are scraping on the south side of 3 digits IQ. This is insanity. Nobody can argue this.
To do that costly signal and to say, like, it's harder to buy property, depending on where you are, but it is generally harder to buy property when you're younger. The nature of every...
A quick parenthesis on this. It's not harder. It's insane to buy property now. Okay? You could buy any type of property. She means buildings, which is stupid because property is all property, but all physical stuff. For example, I was speaking with my father-in-law, and when he was young, say age 20, 1 month of pay was sufficient to buy a brand spanking new Fiat Panda. 1 month of pay. Now, a Fiat Panda is not a car that makes you look awesome, but it is a car, and it goes from A to B a lot. Okay? That was my father-in-law telling me that at his age, you could do this. It was considered irresponsible because people would save, right? Today, imagine the crappiest car, a Dacia Sandero, I don't know, right? You want to buy a Dacia Sandero, a Dacia Sandero, as James May would put it, right? Good news. Would you like to buy that? Okay, that's probably what, 18 grand, 13 grand, 15 grand, I don't know, but a lot of grand. The amount of money you bring home at the end of the month post-tax is what, 500 euros? Right? If you're a normal person, yeah, you can only buy stuff borrowing. Yes. So this is not just a tiny little, yes, it's harder. It's not harder. It's catastrophically impossible. That's what's going on. It's very different, madam.
Everyone going to university actually is kind of, well, not everyone, but when lots of people go to university, it actually devalues the signal. And it also...
Woo! She said something intelligent. Everybody praise the Lords. I don't know what's happening. Yes, that's exactly right. Do you know what? It's a very basic economic principle. If there's a lot of a thing, that thing is less valuable. If there's a very little of that thing is very valuable. Rare equals value. Ta-da! So, if everybody is culturally encouraged / forced, because I don't think that it's easy to tell these two concepts apart, okay, to go to uni and graduate and and by the age of 27 or something you come out totally pointless because you have never done anything because you're still a baby, right? It severely undervalues you as a person, because even if the degree conceptually gives you more value, in reality it does not. The fact that every job out there says that you need to have 2 master's degrees, they are full of it. Nobody needs any degrees. That's an exaggeration. There are some particular roles in the world where you obviously need a higher level of education. Duh, right? But a gigantic proportion of the population prefers to work with their hands. Myself included. I still ended up white collar. I do a lot of this, but
So basically extends your adolescence in that you can't start your business, buy your property, do whatever until you've graduated, and it just like pushes further.
Nobody starts businesses outside of very, very few people. The vast majority of people that are suitable fathers and mothers, well, fathers in particular, mothers don't matter in this case, are employees. It's perfectly fine. You can work under an employment for all of your life. Well, you could. You can't anymore because your taxation robs you of literally everything you have. Doesn't matter where you live. But building your own business doesn't matter. You are now describing a fraction of the population of males. Women now are so deluded collectively that they start from an anchoring point that's so high they have no idea. Like, you're shooting for a point something of a % of males out there. Business owners are a tiny fraction. Young business owners are an hilariously tiny fraction. Successful business owners, without accounting for young, are a tinier fraction.
Further into your 20s. Military service, as you say, much less common. Basically, the ways that men could demonstrate that they are up to being fathers and husbands have become scarcer. And it's no...
And the ways that the women demonstrate that they can become mothers have become non-existent. Goose egg of women are competent in the kitchen. All of them have degrees. None of them know how to make an egg. This is obviously an exaggeration, so for all the pedants in the audience, you can chill out, I know. Doesn't make my point less valid. At least not a priori. Women. The ease with which they are trained from an incredibly tender age to point fingers to others about everything is fantastic. It is so catastrophically wrong. I am not responsible for your failings. Make it personal.
So good if you start, if you gain those costly signals in your 50s, right? Because at that point, you're outside of the reproductive window. It has to be really in your 20s or maybe in your...
Is that lovely? So in order for you to be a business owner who's successful and be dashing and very, 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 very wealthy, Yeah, you need to do it in your 20s, guys. You didn't know this? I didn't know this. It's okay. No, if you do it in your 50s, it's a bit late. By the way, even that is rubbish. Because a male is reproductively active and functional until about the age of 70, is my understanding, on average. Right? So, you, as a lovely lady, could get married to a man much your senior. Which is precisely what people have done in history for a very long time. Without any issue. Because this hypergamy mentality has existed forever. So, meaning hypergamy, for those who don't know, is the tendency for a woman to want to marry up. That makes sense. But again, we go back to the whole concept of marriage, what it's about, and how people actually fall in love. Because if people don't fall in love with numbers, people fall in love with other people. What we have right now is a dramatic drought of love. There's plenty of sex all over the place, and there's plenty of money all over the place. But there's no love. And if you knew me personally, you'd know how difficult it is for me to actually use this terminology. I'm just using it so we can attempt to understand each other. I don't like the word at all, so I tend not to use it.
Early 30s. And that is exactly, I think, what we are missing right now. And maybe that's the key thing. Maybe that's why birth rates are falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
No. Birth rates have been falling off a cliff for 2 or 3 generations. Two. Well, if you consider Gen Z as a generation that is now potentially producing children, which I think would be accurate, or Gen X, is it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. These names are stupid. The point is, my generation, my parents' generation, and the one that followed are all childless. This is an old problem.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but certainly comparatively...
Yes, thank you, Chris. There's a lot of things going on. That's exactly right.
Comparatively, if you were to roll in whatever Malcolm Collins's or a Stephen J. Shaw's idea around this, that as...
I don't know who these are, just for the record.
Females who seem to be much better at all types of education, socioeconomic success in the modern world is pretty much laid at their feet until they pay the motherhood tax in their 30s or whatever. They are more conscientious on average. They're better at handing in homework. I saw Alex Datesike post something this morning about how they can do better sort of long-term planning about when they need to revise for tests and stuff. Like every different part of education, when the brakes get taken off for women, for girls, it seems to be they're pretty good at it. And
yeah, that's what I said. They're good, potentially. I don't believe that, but whatever. They're good at everything except at what they should want to learn to do if they wanted to be mothers. Being a mother, fellas and fellettes, yeah, it's not easy. It's more than a full-time job. Being a proper mother, that is, not these modern women who delegate the education of their children to these other jaded women called teachers that then can ruin your child while your child grows to hate you over time. Not that. Okay, but being a mother is hard, really hard. You need to learn a lot of things, and you need to be prepared to destroy your own body for the advantage of the children, like animals do. Because last I checked, you are a human and an animal as well. The fact that you're a CEO as a female doesn't matter a damn bugger to anybody outside of yourself. But if that's what you want, then brilliant. So could you kindly stop nagging men about the fact that we're not good enough to be your husband? You're not good enough to be a mother in any scenario. There is no scenario in which you're a good mother. So we don't want you. That's one aspect.
They're flourishing, and then I think if you have that, which sets, well, look, this is how much I can look after me. If you, at the very least, can't look after me as well as I can look after me, how much faith can I have in you?
But you can't look after you if you're a successful business owner. Let's say a female successful business owner doesn't look after herself. What she does is she pays others to look after her. She pays servants. Whether they're long-term, short-term, it doesn't matter. Like, she goes to McDonald's, buys the sandwich, eats the sandwich. Or goes to an expensive restaurant, buys the trout and eats the trout. She doesn't do anything. She didn't wash the dishes. She doesn't take care of herself. That's not what she's doing. She's doing the male work. So she's not taking care of anyone or on anything. And therefore, she is inherently unattractive. I don't want to marry another man. At least not in this lifetime. In the next lifetime, most likely, it will spare me a lot of pain in the backside.
Being able to step up. The bare minimum should be that you can do what I can do, and it seems like you maybe can't. And then on top of that, I think the exposure that we have to life expectations of other people online, getting to see the best of everyone's life while we get to see the worst of our own, creates this lifestyle inflation expectation.
Do you know what you do with that, son? Here's what you do. You take this thing, right, that you have, your phone, right, and then you hold the button that says off. That's it. That's the online solved. I'm not accepting this argument.
You know, intergenerational competition theory. Look at where my parents were when they were my age, and they had this house, and they had this thing, and they had this that. I'm never going to be able to get this. Despite when economists do every different type of analysis that you fucking can, adjusted for inflation, Gen Z are better off than every other generation that came before them, economically.
That is impossible. I don't know what economists you listen to. That is not possible. That is impossible. It is impossible. You need to talk to your parents or to your grandparents. I don't know how young or old you are. Assuming you can, because your parents are already the first generation that was really, really late in making children. So it's very likely that your grandparents have already died, which means you have no way of tapping into their knowledge. Everything you're saying right now is catastrophically insane. That is not possible. It was possible back in the day to save a ridiculous amount of your monthly wage while paying the taxes, and the taxes were absolutely manageable. Maybe not during the war. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care what the history books say. I don't care what anybody says. You need to talk to the people, because the history books keep getting rewritten by the winners. And the winners keep on writing whatever the flip they want that matches today. Okay? No, this is categorically false. Back in the day, economically speaking, one generation back or two generations back, people were better off, which is why everybody attacks boomers when boomers say you should just work hard. The irony of all of this is the boomers are right. You should work hard, because most people nowadays don't work hard. Anywhere near. Just as much as the boomers didn't work as hard as their parents did. Okay? And back in the day, people used to save. The fact that, say, America as an example is in constant debt and constantly at the edge of bankruptcy as an individual, every individual is, that is insanity. That's not how the world should work, but that is how it does. So you have this scenario in which people are saying, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to put myself in the hole like 50, 60, 70, 100 grand, I don't know, owing them to somebody just so I can get a degree that fundamentally doesn't matter. Like, the stupidity of that particular scenario is so catastrophic that then you coming out of that scenario and going like, right, so I'm going to buy a house. Well, you're 100% in the negative equity, so I'm not really sure how you're going to do that. And then when you get a salary, any salary, doesn't particularly matter. Let's take my last salary when I was working as an employee at a fairly high level for my standards at the time in this particular company. I used to earn, I think my last year was about 100 grand, 100 and something grand, right? My tax was just in income tax 45k. Then we need to account for absolutely every extra tax. So there will be home ownership tax, because in case you didn't know, despite us living in republics, we don't. We owe taxes on the things we own, which is beautiful. They call them property tax. I mean, that is so Soviet, it's unbelievable. But it's common everywhere. You got it in the UK, you've got it in Canada, you got it in the US, you got it where I live right now, etc., etc., etc. It's everywhere, right? So then you got inheritance tax. Then you got value-added tax. Not everywhere in the US, but we have it all over the place in Europe. And in some places, it's friggin' insultingly high, right? Over 20%, meaning everything you buy, a fifth goes to someone else. By the end of the month, you have nothing in your bank account. And that is exactly how it's designed to be. And you saying that my parents or my grandparents live like that is bananas. That is not true. The paycheck to paycheck system is modern.
They feel like they're not. And the way that you feel is reality when it comes to this, because you're not looking at, you're not doing an economist, you don't have a spreadsheet to work out what's actually going on. What you're doing is saying, well, how do I feel about this? You go, I feel poor and unprepared and like the world is about to burn because it's filled with carbon. That's what I'm concerned about.
You're concerned about the carbon, are you? I don't know, put it in your Coke. Start actually worrying, as in the drink. Start worrying about things that actually matter. Why, like, for example, Chris Williamson. Do you have a family? Do you have children? If so, why are you on telly right now? What matters in life? To share these ideas with other people or to grow a family? Like I said before, the only reason I'm sharing my ideas with other people right now is just so my children have something to go to. And if it happens to make some money someday, hey, hooray, more money for my children.
Yeah, and also for all of these reasons you described about women being great highlighter girls, basically, women earn more than men do in their 20s. And that's a catastrophe, actually. That's actually a catastrophe because it's precisely what women do not want in a partner, someone who earns less than them.
And then quit. It's not difficult, is it?
So unless those women are then coupling with significantly older men, which most people don't actually do. I mean, I think that the average age gap between couples is only like 2 years. It's not that big. A lot of...
I don't know any way in which you could possibly know this. I don't know what a couple is. Is it married people? Where do the information come from? Where does the information come? Plural. Where does the information come from? I have no clue. But you're talking out of your bum. I am as well. The difference is I declare it.
A lot of women are just going to be like, why would I saddle myself to some guy who I don't think can actually be relied upon? I'm just not...
That makes no sense! What you said now contradicts what you said before. You have said that you want somebody who can be relied upon. Okay, what does that mean? Relied upon and earns more than me are not synonyms. Liar. You're deluded and a liar at the same time.
Not going to do that. And the overwhelmingly most common reason that women give when asked, why don't you have children, is not because I'm a girl boss or because I don't own my house or whatever. It's actually I can't find them.
I can't find the guy. Because you women are completely incompetent at taking the thing that you call a mirror and stop painting your stupid faces with it. And what you do is you look in there, in those eyes right there, and go like, who am I? Why can I not find a man? Am I disgusting? The answer is yes. I mean, you're married, you're fine, whatever, I don't know. The fact that women overwhelmingly lie about themselves doesn't surprise anyone. I can't find a man. Fellas and fillettes, what she has just said is that there are no males on this planet Earth that she finds attractive. And you know what the fellas are saying? Sounds good to me, love. Deal with yourself. And they leave. And they're so right. Fellas, listen. I am a father myself. It's the most important thing I've ever done. I'm very happy I've done it. I want to continue to do it. And I don't know what to do with my own children. Because I got 2 boys and 3 girls. And I have no clue what to do to help them. The girls is easier. Because I'm actually teaching them to be human beings as opposed to what this woman is doing. You know, so they have the little coggies and they spin. And they don't need to like paint their faces. Right? So it's easier with the girls. With the fellas, I have no idea. Because when the fellas grow up, I'm going to say, fellas, whatever woman you find, I have no idea how to tell you this, but you need to protect yourself from her. Because she's dangerous. All women are dangerous. You need to be careful. So as I said in a previous video that I've done, if you're 40 or something, just walk away, man. Grab a dog. Get a dog. Dogs are lovely. Yeah? Get a dog. Get a caravan. Never talk to a female again. Done. You're going to be in peace. You don't have to deal with this. Right? But if you find yourself wanting to have a family, then best of luck, because these specimens are going to require a lot of re-education. And it's going to be very difficult because they hold all the cards. So I've no idea. I've no idea how it's going to be possible to get males and females to fall in love and form families again. Not with this. Not with this. not with this as this substance on the other side. I mean, I suppose there's some degree of irony in this because she's saying that we are all awful, right? And that's pretty much what I'm saying the other way around. But in the end of the day, it doesn't particularly matter because it's potato on one side and potato on the other. Fundamentally speaking, potato says you suck and potato says you suck. So, brilliant. Let's all move on. Separation. Separation of church and state. Separation of males and females. That's it. No more. Man, this is sad. I have no idea how you solve the problem. I mean, I'm being more serious now. I'm done reacting to this woman. It's that I feel that my IQ is dropping as I listen to her and him. Right? It's absolutely pathetic that this is a civil conversation. It cannot be the way they are having it. That they are agreeing and everything. This is crazy. Like everything she's saying is insane. She's saying all men need to change and become, I don't know, everybody needs to become Rockefeller in order for you to be able to find them attractive. No, madam, you're totally wrong. You suck. Your ideas suck and you're stupid. And you're probably useless when it comes to being a mother. Therefore, what we do is we set you aside and we move on until you have figured out how not to be a pain in the backside. When you figure that out, then we may talk. But we may be so far gone at that point that there will be no option. So there's that. Now, being a little bit more constructive in concluding this thing, because it's been an hour, I think. Here's what I'm going to say. The problem with not having children stems from one single fundamental basic element, which is nobody wants to. Now that is an incredibly simple explanation, but it is the only one that I have been able to find that makes any degree of sense. Because it's very, very easy to find lots of arguments not to. For example, when somebody argues, children are expensive, that's false. Right? But it's still an argument that people use. Children are expensive if you take them through all the normal systems, meaning you need daycare, school, da-da-da-da-da. Very, very quickly, you're going to find yourself spending so much money on this child that you're going to go, this is insane. And your child isn't yours because the child is somewhere else all the time. Right? So that's not going to work. Right? But whatever the case may be, lots of people still believe this. Lots of people believe that the economic problem is very, very meaningful. Lots of people believe that a child robs you of freedom. Absolutely does, of course. I mean, of libertine freedom, of freedom that has to do with, I'm going to get up and go do something right now because I want to. Unless you homeschool, then you can retain that freedom. But you need to raise your children properly, which is a hell of a lot of work. Every project robs you of freedom by definition. If you were to start any project right now, you were to start a YouTube career. Let's say, right? Like I'm doing this video right now. This is time that I'm giving to the video, right? I'm being robbed of that time. Of course. That's how it works, right? So having a family is exactly the same, just larger, more impactful, more important, bigger, right? That's it. So, people don't want to have children. And they haven't wanted to have children for years. And now we're starting to reach the level in which, in my opinion, this isn't even a worry anymore. Meaning this is irreversible. It will be reversing. I'll be long dead when it potentially reverses. But it's becoming irreversible because now men and women don't want to mingle. Right? Men have figured out that there's lots of solutions to the sexual desire that doesn't involve getting together with women. Correct, fellas. Step out. Now, in the meantime, in order for me to try and make my boys graduate into men and figure out how to be men in a world of revolting women is going to be nearly impossible. I have no idea how I'll do it. But if you get married and you decide to get married, you need to try and have a conversation with your spouse, male or female. Well, first you need to have the clarity in your head that marriage is permanent. And second, you need to try and have the conversation with your spouse telling them, this is my idea, and this is the idea. If you disagree with this idea, walk away now. We're not getting together. For any reason. Unfortunately, the law fights against you. because anybody can terminate a marriage of their own accord for whatever reason they want, because of bodily autonomy or whatever else. It doesn't matter. It's wrong, but that's how it works. So, best of luck to you all. And I think I lost 2 or 3 years from my lifespan for listening to this. Whoa, this was painfully stupid. Goodbye.